I remembered that I used to pitch up my voice for videos, 10 years ago. So I thought, let's do this again. Also, a small warning, this video may be a little cryptic. I love to interpret cryptic things, so let's do this. Several years ago, I watched a review on The Secret of Kells. The reviewer, Robert Hofmann, said it was a movie
mit einem sehr merkwürdigen Ende.
Hofmann didn't give an explanation. If a movie appears weird to you at any point, you should ask yourself, why? Is it caused by the inability to tell a coherent story? Is it failing at conveying a message? Or do you, the viewer, miss something? Is there maybe more behind it that doesn't meet the eye on the surface? These are questions you should ask yourself instead of shutting off your brain and saying,
mit einem sehr merkwürdigen Ende.
The Secret of Kells has one of the most satisfying and unusual endings in animation history. Instead of giving all the answers, it leaves you with very, very big questions. Few films dare to do so, like Faherenheit 451, for example. Noticing this similarity, I realized that these two very different movies have even more in common. Let's take a look. The Secret of Kells is a co-production from Ireland, Belgium, and France from 2009. It's a 2D animated movie set in medieval Ireland. The animation is based on medieval art styles with very stylized characters, missing perspective, and ornaments everywhere. Faherenheit 451 is the film adaptation of Ray Bradbury's science fiction novel with the same name. It's my favorite book. The movie was directed by François Truffaut. Fun fact, the author Ray Bradbury hated the movie, especially the ending. How can somebody possibly compare an animated movie from the 21st century with a sci-fi classic from 1966? Well, both movies focus on the same conflict. Civilization versus culture. Civilization, culture, where's the difference? Isn't it the same? No, it's not. Culture refers to the totality of spiritual, artistic, and creative achievements of a community. Civilization refers to the totality of social and material living conditions created and improved by technical and scientific progress. So we're talking about a conflict between spiritual achievements versus material living conditions. Or, to put it bluntly, mind versus matter. These two might be connected, but they are mostly independent from each other. Spiritual achievements can survive a civilization, for example, in the form of cultural artifacts. These can be physical, like artworks, ruins, or pyramids, but also immaterial, like ideas and narrations. When the material living conditions are destroyed, culture still remains as an identity-producing spiritual achievement. To illustrate my point, here's an example. The civilization of the Babylonians, their buildings, their money, their inventions, everything has perished. But we still know one of their spiritual accomplishments, the Gilgamesch Epic. How does the conflict between civilization and culture show in the movies? Well, in both movies, another character brings the protagonist into contact with culture. In The Secret of Kells, it's the illuminator Aidan who teaches Brandon the importance of cultural artifacts. In Faherenheit 451, it's Clarice who introduces Montag to independent thinking and cultural artifacts as an expression of those thoughts. The Secret of Kells is about the creation of a spiritual achievement, the Book of Kells. This cultural artifact is created within a civilization represented by a monastery. This civilization is threatened by the Northmen who invade the country. In order to protect the civilization, the inhabitants build a wall. Brandon, the main character, is not allowed to leave the monastery to look for colors and other components to finish the book. So the main character has to leave the safety of civilization in order to create a cultural artifact. Civilization is represented as a hermetically closed area that has to shield itself from outside influences in order to survive. In Faherenheit 451, we have a civilization without culture. The civilization is well advanced, people use sophisticated technology for daily needs, health and entertainment, but art, books, all forms of artistic expression and thus cultural artifacts are prohibited. Only meaningless entertainment is offered. The philosophy behind this claims that free artistic or spiritual expression results in negative feelings like heart rate and depression and is ultimately responsible for crime and war. The government claims to protect people from those moods in order to keep society safe, so the wall is a metaphorical one. There is not an actual wall shielding the civilization from the outside. Instead, the government propagates mental barriers to keep civilization safe. Yet, in Fahrenheit 451, civilization is also threatened from the outside by unnamed external forces. Both scenarios illustrate that cultural expression needs freedom to develop. The society's main goal, however, is to protect the civilization, aka the material living conditions. Only the material living conditions. Both societies sacrifice culture and free artistic expression for safety. But it doesn't work out in both cases. Both societies fell for the impulse to oppress culture, but underrated the human need to express their thoughts and feelings in spiritual artifacts. Culture cannot be imprisoned. Ideas will develop. Thus, both civilizations collapse. In the end, the civilization is destroyed by external forces. The protagonists, Brandon and Montag, risk their lives to save a cultural artifact, a book. These books represent the spiritual achievement that survives the destruction of civilization. Do you think it's unrealistic that people sacrifice their lives for a book or a piece of art? Think again. There are examples from real life. In 2007, a fire started in the Anna Amalia Library in Weimar. Michael Knoche, head of the library, entered the burning building at the risk of his own life to save an original Martin Luther Bible. It's not so unlikely that people value cultural artifacts higher than their own life, but why? Okay. Now it gets really cryptic. Hold on tight. If you are not interested in my theoretical blah blah, skip to this timestamp. This is going to be a bumpy ride. So, why are people willing to sacrifice their lives to protect cultural treasures? Why is art of any kind regarded as such an important expression of culture? Here are my 2 cents. Artistic expression is able to communicate meaning like no other form of communication. Art transmits simple, essential, and deep truths without the need to be an image or a reference to reality. I like to distinguish between the term truth and truthfulness. Art and fiction can be truthful because they convey true meanings, even though they are not about actual facts, aka the truth. That is also why abstract works of art can convey truthfulness, even though they do not represent anything that exists in reality. That's the power of any kind of art. It conveys meaning. This meaning is constant beyond civilizations, and that's why it's so important. Cultural artifacts are the very essence of our existence. They show who we were and who we truly are. They are the collective memory of humanity, our memories and experiences. If we lose that memory, we forget who we are and where we came from, forfeiting any chance of progress. Back to the movies. So in both films, culture is saved. In Fahrenheit 451, the initial conflict swings to the other extreme. After a civilization without culture, the survivors develop a culture without civilization. They completely lack the material living conditions they had before. Even culture is completely dematerialized because people themselves become cultural artifacts by memorizing books to pass it on to the next generation, completely giving up their identity. That is a powerful ending, even though Ray Bradbury didn't like it. The Secret of Kells ends with a look into the book. The pages contain a bright, blinding light, the light of truthfulness. This ending may be simpler than the one in Fahrenheit, but it's just as powerful. And the most important thing, both films leave you with questions. What is the value of culture? Is it worth sacrificing a human life to save a book, for example? Or give up one's identity to become a book? What is a human life compared to a cultural artifact? What would you do? I'm a German, I have to ask these questions to myself. These are very big questions. Questions that probably don't have a final answer. And there doesn't need to be, in my opinion. The achievement of those movies is that they make the viewer think about these questions and evaluate the importance of culture for themselves. Coming to a conclusion, the ending of The Secret of Kells is not weird. It's absolutely fantastic. Well, do you agree with my points? What do you think about the dichotomy civilization versus culture? Is there even a conflict to begin with? What's the situation in our current reality? Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm looking forward to discuss with you. Bye-bye! What do you think about the dichotomy? Oh, ich muss das nochmal googeln. Dichotomy. Dichotomy. Represented by a monastery. How do you pronounce that?
Monastery.
Monastery. I would sacrifice my life for this book anytime. Celia in episode 1 is the first part of the first tridecimology, which is called that way, because everybody can write a trilogy. It's on Amazon, and in German. Check it out!